Hi, this is Beth Johnston coming to you from the TV studio at the International Women's Leadership Association. I am very excited today to bring you a very special guest. We're actually going coast to coast. I'm welcoming Patti Drinville, who is the president and CEO of the PLD Group, who has a wonderful backstory, a very unique position as a woman in her industry. And again, very, very excited to introduce to you Patti Drinville. Patti, welcome.
Thank you, Beth. Glad to be here.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. I mentioned you have a very interesting backstory. You shared with me a fabulous story. Tell us a little bit about how you ended up as the president and CEO of your own company.
I'll be more than happy to. I grew up in the printing world. It's not a very glamorous world, but I enjoyed it. And I went to a seminar one time that was talking about personalization. Now, we did nothing about personalization, and I just latched onto it. I had passion for it. When you go home at night and you look at your bills, they say, "Dear neighbor, dear resident." I wanted it to say something, "Hi, Beth." I wanted to make it more personal. And so I did a lot of research, and I came up with a business plan. Now, we had a printing company. I was an executive vice president for a Fortune 500 company with large printing presses and ideas that were today we kind of laugh at. 6-week delay before you get your business forms. And I wanted to do something more on the spot. I wanted customers to be able to order something today and it would be ready today. It would be personalized today. It would be wrapped around the recipient of what they were looking for. So I did a pretty extensive business plan. I was excited. I walked up to my CEO. He was leaving early that evening. I had the business plan in my hand, and he said he would take it home and look at it. So that night, of course, I was nervous. I was excited. I was mentally reorganizing the facility of where we were going to put new presses and how we were going to bring this new philosophy into our company. And the next morning, he came in, and I was anxiously awaiting. He summoned me into his office, actually looked at the business plan, and fired me. He said that it was totally out of realm. What was I thinking? And pretty much I just fell off of the turnip truck and was no longer needed at their company.
And he literally fired you on the spot.
Fired me on the spot, exactly. Asked me to clean out my desk, and I was out of there. He just had never heard of anything so crazy as what my thoughts were.
Wow. I can't imagine being in that moment right at that time, probably pretty shocked, taken back, very disappointed. Looking back years later, did he do you a favor?
Most definitely. Most definitely. I always had in my mind that I wanted to be in a position where I could tell the story that I just told you. And a year ago, I was awarded the Entrepreneur of the Year. And my acceptance speech, as it took me days to write it out and critique it and practice it, when I walked up to the podium to accept my award, my acceptance speech became what I just told you. And I thought, you just made it. You just did what you wanted to do all of these years. So yes, I thank him. His poor soul, he's not with us any longer, but the whole company backed him up. And so I look at it now when I run into somebody that worked for that company, I just have a smile on my face and want to tell them thank you and that I was grateful for what happened. But you're right, at that time, I was in shock.
Sure. In any way, did you ever think, or can you imagine now looking back, would his reaction have been any different had a gentleman proposed that business plan, the exact same business plan?
No, I think his reaction would have been more of thinking about it. I don't think it would have been the jerk knee reaction that he gave me.
Yes, so he acted rather hastily. So you took that moment and you've turned it into a wonderful success. Talk to us a little bit about what the PLD Group does, what you specialize in your industry.
Okay, I've got to. We process, print, and mail critical transactional items. And in simplistic terms, that means that any company who mails out statements, invoices, pre-collection letters, mass communication where they need the personalization in that letter, that's what we do.
And you know, until you said it to me a week or so ago, Patty, I really hadn't focused on that all those things that we get so routinely in the mail that we might not think is necessarily good news, a bill, a statement, what have you, that they are rather cold, aren't they? So your theory
Yes.
of making it personalized, how has the receiver of that information, how has the person you're mailing to, do you see a change in the speed with which perhaps they pay that bill, the relationship that they continue to have with the person or the company that they owe the money to? Does it establish a different relationship?
It does. It does. One of the things that I do when I talk to my customers is I will ask them, you get your statement and you call and you say, I don't understand my statement. What is it that they don't understand? So what we try to do is we will take those questions and we will design a statement that is geared, I always say subliminally, I want to send a statement out that says, don't call, just send money. And we incorporate we incorporate color because your eye will automatically go to a color. We want to bold where your eye would naturally go to bold. Uh, I know that sometimes I'll call a credit card company and it will take me 5 minutes to find the phone number on the statement. You're looking on the back and the front and the bottom and the top, and you can't find the phone number. When we do our invoices and our statements, we are very conscientious of that phone number is easy to find. We want to make it easy for the customer to get their statement, understand what it means, and just send their payment in. We have
Yes,
lots of success stories.
that I can totally relate to. I say every bill you open has its own format. They put the numbers in different places. They're microscopically small, and that becomes another challenge in getting the bills paid. So, other than the fact that you personalize your statements, your billing, you mentioned something about progressive billing. Is that still part of your model, Patty?
Yes, progressive statements is something that we came up with several years ago. And it will actually send a first notice out. It will send out a friendly reminder. It will send out a past due. It will send out a delinquent, and it'll go all the way to sending a pre-collection letter. And our customer doesn't need to do anything, where that took 5 or 6 steps that they used to have to do independently, and we do that for them automatically. So the time savings for our customers is incredible.
And I imagine it saves money as well. What
Yes.
industry or area of specialty do you have? Who do you serve most
Right
proficiently?
now we're about 95% right now is healthcare. And we are branching into actually the collection agencies. There are like 46 million collection accounts right now in the United States. Without getting political, I think a lot of that has to do with the cost, the rising cost of healthcare. People just can't pay their bills. So even though we send them a bill, they can understand it, they just don't have the money to pay for it, and it eventually it goes into collection agencies. So now our second largest customers is the collection agency arena. We do some commercial, we do some utility companies, we also do a couple of the yellow pages, and that sounds like that's obviously going on the way of the buggy bumpers, but We're pretty much out there with all of the customers. Anybody who needs an invoice, we do it.
I just thought of something. You said 46 million unpaid statements? Did I hear that
Unpaid
correctly?
collection account.
Collection
Yes.
accounts. What does that equate to in dollars? Do you know?
No, I don't, because it can be anywhere from, with the new healthcare, a lot of patients used to have like a $500 deductible for the year. It is not uncommon today to have a $20,000 deductible.
Is that to make premiums more affordable and lower the,
It makes it more, yeah.
so one
I have
catastrophic,
one.
go ahead.
Yes, you're exactly right. One catastrophic accident can put put them in bankruptcy.
So this isn't working. So let me ask you, it's stirring in my mind the thought that, are we, using healthcare as an example again, are we being somewhat, I don't want to say trained, but being molded to just don't pay your bills, don't pay what you owe, and eventually you might end up paying less than what you really owe?
That is the case in some situations. A lot of the doctors or the hospitals would rather have you pay a percentage of it. Others, if you're in a hospital that is not for profit, they'll write it off. Others that are for profit, they want the whole amount, and you can't come in and see them anymore if you don't pay your bill. So we see the collection philosophy of today all the way across the spectrum, from very passive to very, very aggressive.
So those people then who are insured but not necessarily incurring these big bills are somewhat affording or floating this very high debt.
Yes.
Okay, so without getting too political, you're in an industry that is primarily still male dominated. I think you told me that like 1% of the companies in the printing industry are actually owned by women. What are the challenges? Have you had any challenges in being such a minority in a huge industry?
I think that the reason that it's 1%, and I think that's pretty good if it really is 1%. I think printing is not, if you will, it's not fun. It's not glamorous. When you talk to women, they mostly want to be in fashion, or they want to be in interior design. Putting ink on paper is not something that a lot of people jump out of bed in the morning and say, I'm gonna go into work and I'm gonna do this. So I think it would be open to more women if they actually saw the fun of it. And I love it. I love printing. I've been brought up in printing. I love what it brings to the table, and I love to be creative on it. So I think the challenge is when you see a lot of the men-dominated world of printing, it becomes more of corporate goals, not as a woman or a man owning that company.
Okay, interesting statement. So aside from printing per se, a very successful business owner, a woman, a visionary, you took some bumps along the way, you're absolutely thriving now. What advice would you give to any woman, regardless of the industry that she's going in? And perhaps still we find so many of those industries male dominated. What advice would you have for a woman in a male dominated industry?
I think if you can get in a male-dominated industry, I think you will blossom. I've always been in a man's world, and it really formed me into the person I am today. Men have been my mentors with lessons that are just priceless. Most men are blindsided when you walk in with passion, and you walk in with determination. Men aren't afraid to They're not afraid that you're going to take their job, and therefore they're more eager to share with you. Men taught me how to take out the emotions, and that's really a big, big deal. I would tell any woman that if you're going into a world, you don't know what industry you want to go in, go for the man.
Be willing to stand out as the woman is what you're
Yes,
saying. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. So,
yes.
words of wisdom from all that you've experienced. You are that woman. There's so many out there walking into that conference room. She may be the only woman there. How does she leverage herself in that moment? How should she be prepared, knowing perhaps that she's the only woman in the room? How does she leverage that to her advantage?
That's really a good question, Beth, because I've done that all my life. Every position that I have ever been in, I have been the only woman. I I never felt that I needed to play the woman card. I played the team card. And being brought up in the men's world, I really worked on the issue, not the personality. I never gave the impression that I was helpless or that I was timid. When I walked into a room, I walked in as if I was one of them, and they treated me as such. There's an old saying, I think it was about 20 or 30 years ago, when they said men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Yes.
And they're not kidding. If you learn the difference, you can leverage it to your benefit.
Yes, you can. A great book by John Gray. I saw John Gray at a meeting in California about a year or so ago. I read that book so long ago. It's a great read. I would recommend it to everybody. If you've already read it, read it again. It's a great, great read. And as you said, it really, written by a man especially, puts a lot of clarity on that subject.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous book.
Yeah. Something else that we agree on, Patti, we spoke about it a week or so ago. And I've said this at conferences and at roundtables and on stages and in laser coaching. What women should do is own who they are, become an expert at something. And what I always say is stop asking for permission to be great or to be successful, and then stop apologizing when you are. You and I agreed on that point as well.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I think you should be grateful for the position that you're in today. It might not be the position that you want to be in tomorrow, but you're there today. Take pride in it and take ownership in it. I mentor young upcoming entrepreneurs at one of the local university, and I share with them 4 points, if I may.
Please.
One of it is, and you and I talked about this last week, is shake their hand firmly. That is your first impression. Your handshake is something that they will take back with them and remember long after they remember what dress you wore or how your hair was fixed. My second thing is to save giggling for happy hours with your girlfriends. Observe your surroundings. It's next time you're in a meeting, as you just mentioned, you're in a meeting or you're in a seminar, even your local health club. Look who's giggling and look who's serious. Quickly sum up that surrounding and make your stake. You want to be better. My third advice is to hold your head up high. Embrace that you are there today. You deserve to be there. If you didn't earn it, you wouldn't be there. So take pride that you're there.
Great point. And the fourth point?
The fourth one is to find a strong role model. If you don't have one, I was very fortunate. I had a handful of them in the industry. Turn on to the television. I'm not a television person. I usually don't sit in front of the television very often. But look at that female newscaster who permeates self-confidence. Now, one of my favorites on television is Madam Secretary. Boy, that woman can handle anything, and she does it under fire, she does it with grace, and she does it with ease, and she definitely has the passion. If we could use somebody like that as a role model, it would make it an easy street for everybody.
Great advice. So let's review that. A good, strong handshake. Take yourself seriously if you expect others to take you seriously. So stop the giggling. great role models, and I'm missing one. The third one, hold your head up high, own who you are. And my goodness, that really sums it up, Patti. And clearly, you have been given good advice, you have taken your own good advice, and have come to be a leader in your field based on, pardon me, great vision and a little bit of disappointment that made you realize perhaps your own greatness. So find your blessings where they are, always run with them, and hold your head up high. Patti, this has been great time shared. I thank you so much for taking time out of what I know is a very busy day for you, because you're doing so much more than printing on paper. And thank you for sharing some of your experiences, your great advice, wonderful wisdom. And I look forward to chatting with you again very soon. Thank you, Patti. Have a wonderful day.
Anytime. Thank you, Beth. Anytime. Talk to
My
you soon.
pleasure. Thank you. Bye, Patti.
Bye-bye.